Here's a concise overview of the main discrepancies in the biblical flood account, found primarily in Genesis chapters 6 to 9. 1. Number of animals. Genesis 6:19 to 20 instructs Noah to bring 2 of each kind of animal. However, Genesis 7:2-3 specifies 7 pairs of clean animals and birds, and 1 pair of unclean animals. 2. Duration of the flood. Genesis 7:17 states the flood lasted 40 days. Genesis 7:24 says the waters flooded the earth for 150 days. Genesis 8:2-3 mentions the waters receded steadily for 150 days. 3. Sources of flood. Genesis 7:11 mentions 2 sources: springs of the deep and rain from heaven. Genesis 7:12 only mentions rain. 4. The dove's missions. Noah sends out a dove 3 times in Genesis 8:8 to 12. However, Genesis 8:7 mentions Noah first sending out a raven, which isn't referenced again. 5. God's promise. God promises never to destroy the earth again with a flood in Genesis 8:21 to 22. This promise is repeated in Genesis 9:11 to 17, but with the addition of the rainbow as a sign of the covenant. 6. Clean and unclean animals. The distinction between clean and unclean animals in Genesis 7 to 2 appears before this concept is formally introduced in Leviticus and Deuteronomy. 7. Timeline inconsistencies. There are challenges in reconciling the various time periods mentioned throughout the narrative. These discrepancies have led to various interpretations. 1. Documentary hypothesis. The inconsistencies result from multiple source documents being combined. 2. Complementary accounts. These are not contradictions, but complementary details, providing a fuller picture. 3. Symbolic interpretation. Certain numbers are symbolic rather than literal. 4. Editorial additions. Later, editors may have added details to an original account. 5. Ancient Near Eastern literary conventions. These contradictions reflect storytelling methods common in ancient times. Many believers find ways to harmonize these accounts, while others see them as evidence of the Bible's human authorship and compilation over time. The interpretation often depends on one's approach to biblical literalism and it's worth noting that these discrepancies are part of a larger scholarly discussion about the composition of the flood narrative, with its apparent contradictions, is often cited as evidence for the theory that multiple sources or traditions were combined to form the final text we have today.